Roll call.
Parker. Here. Miscelinich. Here. Olson. Here. Zittergruen. Here. Chisel. Here. Hadley. Here. Neal.
Here. Is there anyone who wishes to approach the council on something other than what's on the agenda? Seeing none, I have a proclamation to celebrate Arbor Day. And in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees. And this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And it is now observed throughout the nation and the world. Trees can reduce the erosion of precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. I, therefore, Lorraine Borowski, Mayor of Decorah, do hereby proclaim April 26th, Arbor Day in the city of Decorah. I also want to thank Sam Hoganson. He works really well with being able to put grants in to help us to be able to plant trees as well. Okay, a consent agenda.
Item A, minutes of the April 1st, 2024 meetings. So there are 2 of them. B, claims. C, appointment of Jesse Joyner to the Sustainability Commission. D, amendment Class C retail outdoor service impact coffee for the following dates: September 7th, 2023, September 14th, 2023, September 21st, 2023, September 28th, 2023, October 5th, 2023, May 2nd, 2024, May 9th, 2024, May 16th, 2024, May 30, 2024, June 6th, 2024, June 13, 2024, June 20, 2024, June 27th, 2024, July 4th, 2024, July 11th, 2024, July 18th, 2024, July 25th, 2024, August 1st, 2024, and August 22nd, 2024. Those are all Thursdays.
Take a breath.
Right. And item E, 2024 Farmers Market Lease Agreement.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
2 questions, actually. How can we retroactively go back to 2023?
So, Carrie, can you provide a little comment on this? I know the ABD did some changes last year, and so the filing was maybe done differently than it was supposed to. So there were previous actions that were approved, but this.
Correct. And we also, with the same business, we did this, I don't know how many months ago. So I'm not really sure exactly what it was, but they're just trying to get everything in line, because when they originally last year put in their request for Thursdays nights, there was some things that they had to correct. And so we're just going retro. They're the ones that send it to me. So
yeah. No,
yeah, I'm not sure why.
It just seems strange to retroactively approve something that's already happened.
And this is the second time we've done it for this business.
Okay. My other question is, why are we giving special treatment to the farmers market versus any other entity that wants to use city property for a function?
We could pull it off the consent agenda if council chooses to want to discuss, debate further. This is the same lease that's been approved previously. I know there have been discussions previously, so if council wants to pull it off, certainly can.
Yeah, I would.
But we do have a motion in a second. Yep. So really we should vote.
Assuming you'd have to vote on the motion in a second, correct? Can you take it off the agenda during the discussion after a motion and a second?
There should, so a consent agenda shouldn't have any discussion, quite frankly.
Okay,
It should just be, our council rules say that any one council member can pull an item from the consent agenda. It doesn't specify before or after a motion, but
I would encourage Christopher and Kristen to consider withdrawing. I feel like
I'll withdraw.
I will too.
Then I would like to take item E off for further discussion, please.
in that case, is that the first one that we discussed after
if
doing
that's
it?
where you want to place it, it's up to the mayor's determination.
Do you have a suggestion?
No time like the present.
Okay, that sounds good. All right,
you still need a
We
motion.
still need a
I know.
motion to approve the consent agenda without item E on there.
I'll second.
Motion made by Olson, second by Ms. Linich, to approve the agenda and also taking E off for further discussion. Any further discussion now? Roll call?
Olson,
Aye.
Ms. Linich,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Jizzle,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Neal.
Okay, I will take the farmer's market lease agreement discussion at this point. Did you have any further comment?
No, met with Josh Dansdale, representative of the farmers market. My understanding is the market is looking at adjusting their hours of operation, but it doesn't necessarily impact the hours specified in the lease. So it's the same exact lease as last year. Yeah, that's the background I have to give.
Randy, were there particular things about the lease that you feel like constitute unreasonable?
The free pass for starters, after we talked at our, I don't know if it was in the workshop or when at the last meeting, we're talking about raising the special event permit because of the city services that are provided with barricades, et cetera, personnel. I mean, if they're not willing to pay for that, then are they going to be the ones responsible to go pick up and return the barricades instead of our city staff doing it?
So what you're stating is you wonder why they aren't being charged for the use of the property?
Yeah, I mean, we charge Nordic Fest, we charge Vesterheim when they have Sentin de Mai, Cops and Rodders, anybody that applies.
They are being charged.
There was a $16 per
Yeah.
event fee in the lease.
That's waived.
That council typically does waive by resolution.
Does it continue, is it in the lease now?
The $16
Right.
per event fee is still listed in the lease, but the request to waive is not in there yet.
So when that request comes, maybe that would be a good time to discuss if we want to continue waiving it. Is that request hasn't come for this year yet? Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, I read it wrong then, I'm sorry. But I know in the past we have given it up, and after our last discussion with the use of city services and personnel, I just thought it was improper to give something away.
Well, I do think the last discussion we had was as a work session, so we haven't actually made any formal decision on that. So I would caution us from making any decision on something we haven't actually decided, right?
Well, currently it is in the lease as stated.
No, I get that. I'm talking about, the discussion that we had is certainly not final, and we really had
I know
nothing
it's not
tangible.
final, but it was a discussion point.
Yeah.
Are you willing to go forward with that, Randy, then with
If
leaving it sit as is or whatever, and then we'll have a discussion when
if they're paying like
Okay.
everybody else.
Sure.
Can I ask
across the
Can I ask
board,
a
yes.
question about that? $16, is that the special event permit fee, or is that just a holdover from old language?
Holdover from old language. Special event permit currently is $20. The resolution that's the ordinance that's drafted for consideration tonight is fees established by resolution of the council. So again, that would be determined later. But 16 is a holdover.
Yeah, I mean, it might be nice to clean this up too while we're at it. And can we set that fee by reference at some point, or?
You're talking the one in the lease
I
agreement?
don't know, whatever you think makes it so that this doesn't stick around without,
I have a hard time right now thinking about changing fees on our well-established community event holders in the community when they have already set their budgets. I mean, summer is starting. So I guess if we're thinking about switching fees, especially on something like the farmer's market that isn't, you know, I know this will impact them greatly. I guess I think the winter is a better time to do it than all of a sudden being like, oh, by the way, this summer now we're going to charge you blank per day. That seems disingenuous.
Well, previously it's been in the lease, and then was it each year they were waived?
I'm fine with the 16. I'm just saying,
Okay.
if we're talking about increasing it or changing it, I feel that way for many of our summer event holders that we're about to discuss something that's going to gravely impact their budgets. And that seems very unfair at this time.
We're talking about $4 and 15 weekends or whatever. It's not a huge amount of money, and maybe it's worth moving on from. But I just think the number should match what we charge everyone else. Whether we decide to waive it or not is something we can talk about later.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I move the.
I think we had.
We didn't have a motion on the farm.
We didn't have a motion on that particular item.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to move the approval of the lease.
Right.
Okay.
So Mayor, I'll move the approval of the lease.
Second.
Motion made by Zittigran, seconded by Olson to approve the lease. Roll call?
So I just want to confirm, Zitterground's motion, was it Olson or Neal
It was Olson.
for the second?
The second was Olson.
Okay, thank you. And as it stands, $16. Okay, thank you. Zittergrund?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Miscelinich?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Motion carried. Cops and Robbers Special Event Permit Application. Can you give some background on that, please?
Okay, so typically we put special event permit applications in the consent agenda, but this event has generated some conversation among the public. So the proposed car show is the morning of Saturday, May 18th, which corresponds with the same weekend as the high school commencement on Sunday, as well as Luther's commencement on Sunday. It also aligns with the end of National Police Week, which ends on Saturday, May 18th. The Elks Lodge, which hosts this event to benefit the Decorah Police Department. Let's see, the city code. City Council does not have to approve all special event permit applications. Alternatives to the proposed locations could be brought up by City Code Section 526010, which reads, the purpose in enacting this ordinance is to ensure that special events are promoted and staged in a manner which preserves the safety of both our citizens and visitors to our city, to ensure that all promoters of these events are treated fairly and in accordance with their particular needs in the promotion of the event, to promote the economic well-being of our community through the orderly attraction of people to these events, and ensure city personnel have adequate opportunity to address for and provide services for the events, so as to provide them to the maximum opportunity for success. In addition to that, City Code Section 526040 reads in part, the City Council shall approve or deny the license application in its sole discretion based upon the facts and comments presented to it and overall effect the special event would have on the city and or its citizens.
Thank you.
If we wanted to amend this application in some way, shape, or form, what is the means of going about doing that? Or
you want to take this one?
I think that there's room to try to negotiate, today and try to get it done.
Okay.
I mean, it takes an agreement of the applicant to amend their application, but if they'll agree to the amendment, then I have no problem with it.
I wouldn't say. I'm sure many of you felt the barrage of emails in our inbox, and I really appreciate all the people who wrote explaining the situation of closing Water Street on an event like this. I think that we have heard, at least in my time at council, how what we do gravely affects the downtown businesses, and it does appear that this particular event on this weekend, closing down Water Street, seems to affect businesses. So since we have to approve or disapprove permits based on sort of reasons and thinking about economic vitality. I went to this event last year and I love it. I think it's really fun. It's great for our police department. And so I would like to change the permit location or change the location of the show if it's going to be that weekend, or think about having it as the kickoff to Police Week as opposed to the closing of Police Week. So that would be my feelings about it. I think the economic impact is real to our businesses downtown. I think we should have further discussions about what are the criteria for closing down Water Street in general as a council, and have that more firm than we've maybe had. I think it took up many of these letters for me to kind of see the problems with that closing off that street for businesses. So
would we be allowed to have some public comment from the permit from the event organizers just to see if that's something that they would be applicable towards venue wise?
I think it was Vic that put the application in for the Elks. Do you want to come up and speak to the council? And just state your name and the address.
Does this make my Subaru a classic?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Vic Pinkney. We live at 1100 Locust Road in Decorah, Iowa. For those of you that don't know me, I came here 55 years ago with the telephone company as the manager for the telephone company. I represented the telephone company and was promoted several times. When I was able to take retirement 25 years later, I had the territory from Minnesota to Missouri, 1/3 of the state. My offices were Decorah, Cedar Rapids, and Davenport. After I retired from the telephone company, my wife and I started Sundance Travel on Water Street. I think I'm somewhat aware of business, both from the corporate standpoint and a small business standpoint. We had Sundance. It was very nice. This might surprise some of you, but during Nordic Fest, those 3 days, we never, ever in 30 years sold a ticket, not once. We didn't complain. In fact, we invited people down to enjoy Nordic Fest with us, and we celebrated it rather than protesting it. I've been an Elks member for 50 plus years. I've been on the trustees for longer than I want to remember. Our projects are our children's project. We support the 8th grade trip to DC for children that can't do it. The veterans program, we take packages to the veterans in the retirement centers. And our community project was supporting the canine program. We started in 2021. The group of guys here with me wanted to do something for the Decorah canine program, and the police department at that time wanted to partner with us, and it came out to be a good partnership. Police Week was a great fit because you're honoring fallen police officers. The gentleman to be a sponsor, it's not just showing up at the meetings. You also have to kick in $250 to pay for all of the expenses. 100% of the money that comes in goes to the canine program. We raised over $9,000 the last 2 years for the canine program. Obviously, it all depends on weather and location. We've been to shows all over this area, all the way from Minneapolis. We've worked on that show. That show started a little bit bigger than us, 500 cars. They're now at 12,000 cars at the state fairgrounds. So you can grow these kind of things if you have the support. Our first year, 2021, was crazy for us. We had like 3 blocks, well over the number of people that we thought, the number of cars. We ended up blocking the traffic, and the sidewalks were absolutely crazy. 2022, thank you. You gave us more territory. We used it all, and the people were spread out a little bit more. We didn't have any cars in the middle for emergency problems. We tried to address complaints. We kept the street open so people could get to Donlands. We left River Street open to get access to the co-op. Last year, we didn't allow food trucks. We wanted all the money to go to the downtown business people. It was pointed out by the mayor that the South Alley got blocked. And so this year, our intention was to leave that alley open so that the flower trucks could get in and out. We have had good PR. KVIC has been very good to us, and KWWL had the drone pictures of the event on their TV station. When we heard that there was negative comments, we did go downtown and talk to some of the people down there because we hope you let us continue. My favorite comment was, you're bringing in over 1,000 people. If I can't get them into my store and sell them something, it's my fault, not yours. We hope you let us continue. We hope to grow this. The plaques you were giving out, that's actually a picture of downtown Decorah. Those are the dash plaques that we hand out. We've been very lucky with the weather. And of course, you don't have the weather, they're not going to bring out a $100,000 car if you don't have the weather. So we've just hit it lucky. I think Cody wants to talk to you about it also, but if you have any questions after he's done, I'm glad to answer them.
I think for the moment, I'll have them ask you the questions.
Yes.
So the council has questions.
I just have a quick one. I've gone to the show twice. I got sunburned last year. You've had great weather. Thank you for it. Thanks for supporting our canine program as well. And I'm going to echo what I've heard from lots of downtown business interests as well. No one has a problem with this show. They all think it's a good cause and a great event for the community. The issue is the timing and the location. So I appreciate all of your comments. I'm curious if you could respond sort of directly to how the organization would feel about working with the city to find an alternate location.
I think you probably could. I think the downtown Water Street works the best. It was suggested sometimes earlier that we move to Claiborne. It's been tried, not in Decorah, Mason City with their Music Man car show that goes along with their celebration over there, moved it 2 blocks away. The people did not come up. They did not get any business. They're not going to leave those kind of cars unattended. They won't go that far. Whether they'd go any other place, I don't know. I will tell you this, I don't get around that well anymore. I was at the registration table last year. We had a lot of very positive comments, like you said. I did talk to 3 gentlemen from Luther College that came to be with their kids, and they thanked us because it said it gave them something to do while the women were shopping. So
I just had a quick comment too. I appreciate you coming here to talk to us and fill us in on the information that you had, and appreciate you talking to me yesterday and answering all my questions in reference to this, because I think all of these types of ideas are wonderful things for the city of Decorah, and it helps promote our community and bring people into our community. So I don't want in any way deter these events from happening, because I think they're all wonderfully good things. In hearing from the people from downtown and stuff like that, that thought they were losing some business because of, would the Main Street area, would that be a possibility for you guys to move that to, or is that?
I guess you could go anywhere. It's whether the people will go from there. I mean, down and shop.
Right.
To me, when you've got them right there and the shops are right there, you've got them, you know.
I think
it's we can get them there. We got over 1,000 people there. I'm sure when they first started Nordic Fest, I can't imagine the number of complaints from the businesses that they were going to close it down for a couple of days.
Right.
You allowed that to grow. I would hope you allow us to grow too.
Right. I think you made a comment to me yesterday when we were talking in reference to this thing too. You said a number of people came up at the registration booth that were here for Luther commencement.
Yes.
And several were the men of the family or whatever, and they enjoyed the car show.
Right.
It gave them something to do while their wives might have been shopping and things like that. Yeah. So it worked as a benefit in that respect.
It really does.
Right.
I do think in talking with folks from the chamber, one of the thoughts is that we have great events in Decorah, yours included. And it would be nice if we kind of spread the love a little bit. When you think about graduation, every hotel is filled, every Airbnb is filled. So as I would think and be excited to grow the car show, that's going to put a great deal of pressure on those resources, right? At some point, there just won't be a place to stay, especially as you envision the car show in the future. So it does seem to me, and I think for this year, I'm much more in line with let's figure out if we can find a different place. But I would encourage a different weekend in the future with the notion that if this is going to grow, then why try to grow it in conjunction with two of the most major events we have in Decorah? It's also the largest, for the businesses that reached out and for the chamber, it is actually their third largest shopping weekend in the entire summer. And that was what concerned me was they seem to have the evidence that the show, while promoting some businesses, isn't an overall win for businesses downtown in the same way that Nordic Fest is not either. And we've had businesses complain about that as well. So it just things in conjunction. I wouldn't be supportive of having Nordic Fest during graduation either, right? It just seems like a piling on top, making more chaos.
We can't move Police Week. That's a United States thing. So we can't move that. That's going to be that week no matter what.
Oh, I get it. I just think you could kick it off as opposed to end it.
Kick it off on a Sunday?
No, like start it the week before. Like you would have the event the week before, because I believe that's when you had it the first year.
No,
so yeah, I'd like to say something. So actually Vic and I started Cops for Otters.
Yeah.
And so it'd been 2002, 2 years ago. So at that time, the police department, we had a lot of law enforcement officers that passed away. So we wanted to benefit Iowa cops was the original for it. We wanted to raise money for that. And we heard through the grapevine that the Elks Club wanted to put together a car show. So I went to Vic, we got together and we created it. So in 2022, Police Week was from May 15th through the 21st. Commencement, both for Luther and the high school, was that Saturday of Police Week. We scheduled it for May 14th, which was the Saturday prior to Police Week, because we didn't want to have we didn't want all those cars downtown during commencement. We had it the week prior, and yeah, it was around Police Week. You can't change Police Week, but we had it the weekend before. Sunday started Police Week, and that first one was to raise money for Iowa cops, which we ended up donating to that. So it is possible to move the date. And I think that weekend, it was a successful one. Everybody was pretty happy. The second year is when people started complaining when it did fall on that Saturday of Police Week with commencement and Luther and the high school.
And they can always move commencement. I mean, that can be moved to, I'm not saying we want to move it, but it's not dyed in the wool that Luther College and the high school are always going to have it on that particular weekend.
Well, it is based on a semester, like the actual academic requirements for a semester.
One thing, I have a question for Brent.
Yes.
How would you see if, like, for this time, to move it to Maine and go from, would it be Court over?
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect, we wanted to do that balance of, would we rather have it down on Main Street or would we rather have it fallen on Police Week? Like Vic said, there are benefits to having it on Main Street. It's really cool to have car shows on Main Street.
Wait, Maine or water?
Or
sorry, about moving it to Maine.
I said to
yeah. I meant water. There is a benefit to having on a water street, and it's really neat to always have your downtown filled with old cars, and it's very picturesque, and people come down and see your downtown. I get that. But if it's a police week thing and they want, that's having it on that Saturday police week, I would advise moving it to a different location off of Water Street for that, because it is Luther commencement and also the high school graduation.
It's two commencements.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and in my opinion, as it sits now, I'm gonna have to vote no for it. But if we want to change the date to a different date for Main Street, I'm good with it. Or Water Street, or if we want to move it, I'm also good with that.
I'm inclined to agree. I'm curious, John, can we approve the permit and make it contingent on staff working with event organizers to find either an alternate location or an alternate date? Or would you rather have the right information on the approved?
I think you need to approve the final application if the applicant is willing to amend it. I mean, I think you've got to have their consent and agreement to amend it before you approve anything.
Can the consent be after the fact? Like, council approve, this is what we're awarding you. And
Can we do it contingent?
I think Vic had a comment he wanted.
I was just wondering if Cody could speak also, because he's been a very integral part of this. And
I would move to allow that because his name is also on the application, if you would allow that. I know, but I was saying if you would allow that.
Allow
Cody just to speak for a few minutes, because
I'll tell you what, I'll allow Cody to speak, and then I know we've had other people that have had comments, and I will allow them to speak.
Sure.
And I request that you keep anybody coming forth, keep it at 3 minutes, please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Vic.
Thank you.
Okay, so then it would be Cody, who's been working, who actually has been working with it.
So
Can I just say your name and address?
my name's Officer Cody Emel. Obviously work here. I live just outside of town now.
Okay.
Been working with Vic on the car show for the last 2 years. We hear the concerns from some businesses saying that, yeah, it's not a good weekend for it. It does coincide with National Police Week, which is kind of important. If it's going to be a National Police Week, we should probably, focus around that. We've talked about moving the car show down to Claiborne Drive and stuff, changing locations. But in our mind, and speaking with some of the other businesses, T-Box, Impact Coffee and stuff like that, we felt like it would be a disservice to move the car show away from the downtown area because our thought was we pull people away from all the shops and stuff like that. If we moved it down to Claiborne Drive and stuff, or Main Street, there's the talk of, we would need food trucks and stuff like that. And we kind of went away from that idea because we were trying to assist the businesses. Something I fail to see is how bringing 1,000 extra people into town that would not normally be downtown, how that's a net bad thing. That confuses me. And if it is, I'm completely fine with hearing that. And, we'll have our event. We'll be successful with it regardless. But I think we've been trying to assist the businesses by getting people downtown is why we've done it there.
Cody, when you were talking, did you look at May 11th as a potential, which is the Saturday before?
We did. It's kind of a time crunch. We could maybe do that. But it all comes back to we were trying to coincide it with National Police Week.
But that's the beginning, isn't that the beginning weekend?
The beginning of National Police Week is Sunday, May 12th. So Saturday would be obviously the day directly before. Yeah.
Or you'd be celebrating the week coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, that's an option. Obviously, we want to be a benefit for the downtown businesses. It's kind of unfortunate that National Police Week falls on that week. So.
I think it's a little bit like the Nordic Fest effect, right? I don't think businesses will say that Nordic Fest is a great weekend for them either. Mm-hmm. There is a certain, that we have to appreciate that when we do street closures, people find parking to be an issue. They don't come downtown as much unless they're specifically going for the show, right? And so, and some of the businesses you mentioned actually were some of the ones we heard from asking the show to be moved. So I do think that there is a legitimate concern about business that particular weekend. I mean, and that was what we heard from the chamber as well, which represents, should actually know the figure, but quite a few businesses in the downtown area.
So I guess changing the weekend isn't really going to do anything. If it affects the downtown businesses, it affects the downtown businesses.
No, it's for that
It does
graduation
make
weekend.
a difference, so
Yeah.
if when you've got both graduations from college and school, that makes a difference.
Which is their big, those, and that's their third largest shopping weekend is graduation. So if you move it the weekend before, you're not impacting that particular weekend in the same way.
Okay.
It seems like consensus is that if they could switch it to that Saturday before or switch it to Main Street would work best for everybody up here. Is that something you guys are in a position to make a decision on that? Like tonight? Yeah, exactly. That's, I mean, I know that's putting you guys on the spot.
I tell you what.
Was there another conflict? Was there another show that weekend?
No, the only problem was trying to get the
Okay, I think also, why don't you think about that with your group? And then I was going to open it up if there's somebody from downtown that wants to come up and speak as well.
Thanks, Cody.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else from the downtown area that wishes to speak?
My name is Kelly, Kelli, Courtney, Courtney, and I own Margaret's Boutique.
I'm going to have you, just pull it down and then thank you.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. I own Margaret's Boutique at 210 West Water Street. Without a doubt, all businesses appreciate this event. We think it's a good event. As we've all communicated, it's just the date. I think I can share a little diversity of the complexity that the organizers may be experiencing, and that if you bring 1,000 people downtown, it's got to be good. Of course, people are going to want to shop. Well, for my business, I have a women's clothing store, and I can tell you that the people who come for a car show are not the same people that are going to come for a new outfit. So I think we have to think about commerce and how commerce can be different for different entities. Mm-hmm. So if there's people wanting to shop, they don't want to sift through cars, and they don't want to sift through people looking at cars. They want to get to the stores they want to get to and purchase the products they want to purchase. And of course, there's going to be businesses like restaurants. Everybody's got to eat. So of course, we're going to help restaurants no matter what we do. We're helping them with the car show, and we're helping them with the commencements. So eating is always a good thing. But I think we have to be mindful that the businesses downtown cater to different diverse groups of people. And I think that's what the businesses are pleading for.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I understand what you're saying. Now, when I think of it, I think that there may be a lot of women that come with their husbands that really don't want to do anything with car show, but would rather shop. Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought, is there any thought about what could encourage them coming into your shops to shop while they're downtown, and be able to glean some of those people and have them come into shops and be interested in what's in there?
Yes, I personally thought about that last year. Last year, we tried to be more open-minded. It was on commencement weekend last year. It was the first time that Water Street was closed commencement weekend. I was open-minded. We had racks outside trying to pull that woman in, the wives. Mm-hmm. What I found out personally, I can speak from my business, the people who, the wives of those men were also car enthusiasts. They were not, clothing wasn't a top priority for them. They weren't shoppers. They weren't interested in going to store. They were an enthusiast of the cars, just like their spouses were. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to draw on the women that attended the car show.
Okay, I appreciate that. From what you said, would you agree if it was the week, not agree? I know it could be equally as bad, but probably not as bad for you if it was the week before versus just the week of graduation for high school and college.
I think that would be a fair compromise, yes.
You know, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that may have something different than what she said or what he said who would want to approach the conversation for the council? Sure.
Kate Scott. I reside at 405 East Broadway in Decorah, and I am a business owner of 2 brick and mortar businesses downtown, the Silver Birch and Dragonfly Books. My question is Travis, when you were talking about this, you said the application was for the morning, and it appears that the dates or the times are 7 to 2 p.m. on the application. So I wanted to just clarify whether it was morning or whether it did go into the afternoon, because oftentimes we see, you know, that first hour or 2 in the morning be a little bit quieter in our stores. By 11 is when we normally see a pickup. And last year we did not see that pickup until after the cars were off the street, which would have been around 2:30. So that's my only question. Thank you.
Can you answer that?
My apologies when I said the morning. My conversation helps that the actual event itself will be limited to morning. Post-event ending and street reopening, so they have time to clean up, get everybody out of there, and that's their buffer to get everything back home.
Okay, thank you. And I did write a written statement. I think that answers everything. I did want to just say thank you for taking the time to discuss this tonight. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to you guys. As far as I know, when we talked, Cody, I think you can come up. I think he just appointed you to come back up. Vic did. I know when we talked too, we talked about when you would be done with the part of the court. Can you kind of explain that piece?
We have right now in the permit that we submitted,
it's at
1. So if we do awards at 1, I think last year we had awards at 1 and we had the street open by 2-ish, wasn't it? Somewhere in that vicinity. That's why I put it from 7 to 2. So
I understand now that meant the completion, everything would be done and out by 2 o'clock.
Right. That would be the hope. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
So real quickly, John and I over here were talking about if council so chooses, you can also table this item until the end of the meeting to allow time for everyone that's here can go ahead and break off, have discussions, and then revisit it at the end of the agenda unless they're ready to go. Ready?
We talked it over. Of the 2, I think it's more important to have it downtown, so we'd rather move the date earlier, try to rush the printing, than move it off of.
Hadley will make a motion to approve the event permit with the stipulation that it be held the week prior.
Saturday prior.
Saturday, May 11th.
I'll second.
Motion made by Hadley, seconded by Olson. I want to let you know how much I appreciate that we've been able to have a discussion in this fashion, both with the downtown people, but with the car show, because both items are equally as important, as is the fact that we have a lot of people in town on the 18th for the high school and for Luther. So I really appreciate being able to get this piece worked out. Any discussion?
I also want to thank you guys for coming up with the idea of doing this and bringing an extra 1,000 people into town for a weekend like this, because this is really beneficial to everybody, I think, in town. So thanks to all you guys for coming up with an alternative idea to bring a bunch of people into town, because that's great. Thanks.
I would like to echo that sentiment as well, especially being the individual that does represent a majority of downtown in my ward. As well as, you know, business owners that were open to having conversations with me, as well as Vic and Cody, because I went ahead and did a lot of research before this evening, and I just wanted to say I appreciated hearing from both sides on the issue that presented itself tonight.
Any other?
Thank you, police department.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I also want to thank you very much for being compromising, and I really do hope this event grows and we fill all the hotels with it.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
But it has been historically, it's just been a really fun event and well attended, and your ability to flip the street quickly is impactful, but the economic burden to the businesses is real. And when you're entertaining people on the street, they're not shopping. It's data driven, and we can prove it.
Nordic Fest does the same thing. I mean, it's not.
I kind of think.
Oh, sorry.
And it's data driven, and yeah. Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any further discussion?
Let's hope for good weather both weekends.
Okay, I'm going to call for a roll call. Roll call?
Hadley?
Aye.
Aye.
Littergren?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Miscellaneous?
Aye.
Miscellaneous. Oh, miscellaneous. I was just repeating that. I'm really happy because now I'm going to be able to be there and you could do the mayor award. I couldn't be there on the 18th. Now I'm excited that I can be there. So thank you very much.
Burnout contest.
Okay. 7, conduct public hearing for Decorah Municipal Airport Solar Array Project.
We got 7 public hearings. Anybody want to stick around? No? No? All right. Yep. All right. Okay. So item 7, the public hearing for the solar array project. There is no actionable item to follow this.
Excuse
because
me. Can you?
You got the gavel, Mayor.
Oh, that's true. Well, they're having.
So
thank you. Okay.
So item 7, there's no actionable item associated with this one at this time because we'll get into with item 8, but item 8's bid letting was postponed. And item 7 is a solar array to go on the roof of proposed project number 8. So the public hearing for tonight is a 38.6 kilowatt DC mounted roof array on top of the proposed conventional hangar with attached terminal building. This hearing was set at the March 4th meeting. We did receive 2 bids that were, the low bid was about 80,000 with engineer's estimate at 100,000. Not indicated here at this time because again, no action to follow.
Okay. I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item on the agenda? Hearing seen none, I'll close the public hearing. We'll go on to the next public hearing. Conduct public hearing for Decorah Municipal Airport corporate hangar with attached terminal building project.
Okay, so this, the proposed project originally was for the hangar that's existing up there to be demolished and in its place a new 80 by 80 square foot conventional hangar with an attached 30 by 60 terminal building built in its place. 2 days, I believe, 2 business days before bid letting, one of the sub-consultants discovered through requesting our water department to pressure test that the current proposed project, which had a fire suppression system in the conventional hangar adjacent to the project, as well as the proposed new construction, our water pressures are not sufficient to have a fire suppression system of that size. And so the engineers were trying to estimate how to fix it. Sound like the fix was a 30 to 40,000 gallon underground storage tank with fire suppression pump. If these sound costly, that's because they are. And so Airport Commission, well, they meant following, but I called the airport engineer. I said, we've got to do an addendum, postpone the bid letting. And the only way I see this project having hope is if you propose an alternate bid where it's demolition of the existing 2 bays on the west 7-pack of hangars. Those are the 2 closest to the existing maintenance hangar, because if those 2 are demolished, you have enough separation between the new project and the existing that it does not require a fire suppression system for either. So this project has been, the bid letting's been postponed until May 13th with the bid let, or excuse me, with the actual anticipated project award being considered at the May 20th council meeting.
Okay.
But this public hearing was set at the March 3rd meeting, so we need to hold this public hearing now.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item on the agenda? Hearing saying none, I'll close the public hearing. Conduct public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 2025 budget.
Well, we've drafted it over the course of, what month are we in? April. 4 months worth of council work, coordination with staff. Staff's been working on it for another 2 months prior to that. So public hearings required by law before the council can approve the budget. Item 9 is the public hearing. 10 is the actionable item. Budget's been, again, drafted through the various work sessions. We held the property tax levy hearing on April 1st with no comments or objections made. As a result of House File 718, again, city code is required to, cities are required to adopt our budget by April 30th now. So the drafted budget has a total levy of $16.27935 for the cents. So $16.28 roughly, which is down from 16.40184 from fiscal 24.
Okay, so I'll open the public hearing for this budget. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this? Seeing, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Consider resolution approving the proposed fiscal year 2025 budget.
I move the resolution.
Second.
Moved by Zittergrun, seconded by Olson. Any discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Roll call.
Zittergrun.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Chisel.
No.
Hadley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Motion carried. Conduct public hearing for the proposed fiscal 2024 amendment. And Carrie's working with this.
So the amendment we have been working on for a few months. The worksheet that is in the Dropbox gives the amount. Majority of the expenses are just representing the grants that could potentially be started. And so that's what the majority of it is. Some of it was public safety, public works. This would have been Jeremy's work. And again, that's a lot of the grants that he went after, and we just need to represent that in the budget before we can spend it.
Okay. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Seeing, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Consider resolution approving the proposed fiscal year 2024 amendment.
I move the resolution.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Zittergrun, seconded by Neal. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Zittergrun.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Aye.
Consider public hearing on plans and specifications, form of contract, and taking bids for the Decorah 2024 Carlson Park Gateway Trail Project. Going to give some feedback on that, please?
Yes, so I will combine background for items 13 and 14, 13 being, oh, I'm sorry. I'll combine the background for items 13 and 14, where item 13 is the public hearing and item 14, the actionable item to be considered by council. The project was for a proposed 1 mile loop of mountain biking trails within Carlson Park. We have to have a public hearing based on the engineer's estimated price of the project, which was $200,000. Bid letting was last week on Thursday, where one bid was received with a base bid of $339,257.25 by Steel and Associates out of Georgia. That is 70% over the engineer's estimated cost of $200,000. There was an alternate bid, which provided some rock armament and stabilization of some of the features. If you add that alternate of 36,000, that's 88% over. Resolution is drafted in the affirmative. So if council gets to that point, it's drafted in the affirmative to award both the base plus alternate. However, staff is not recommending award of the project.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item?
Benji has his hand up.
Benji?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Great. I apologize. I'm speaking to you from Walmart store number 100 in Bentonville, Arkansas, which has extremely fantastic public Wi-Fi. So I appreciate Travis's background. We are well aware, all of us who've worked on this project for 7 years now. This is not, the situation we were hoping for, but we were told by the professionals that we've been working with that this was a very likely outcome from this round of bidding, in that most of the respectable contractors that are doing this kind of work are booked up for 2024. So they are looking to work into 2025. So I think we've now seen that. We certainly do not expect anyone to even consider accepting the one bid that we received. So we appreciate everybody's time. And it's the reality of the project. What I will say very quickly is that we do also really hope that everyone in this room and involved in the project, there have been a lot of really great people at the table, a lot of volunteers, a lot of donors now, a lot of folks. We really hope we can get everybody at the table to get another round of bidding out when it makes sense for construction season 2025 on this project. And the only other thing I'd ask is that, at this point, the process really needs to be positive and really needs to move forward. We've got all the right players at the table. This project has been going on for 7 years. There was a group of people at the table 7 years ago that had a plan on paper, ready to roll. The city of Decorah could have had a functioning trail system at Carlson at least 5 years ago in this process for maybe $10,000, right? And from the second that project came up, the answers have been no, pump the brakes, we don't know, no, we can't do that, no, we're not allowed to do that, we can't figure this out. So we've done all the steps we've been asked. We've raised all the money we've been asked. We're raising more money. We just had more donations today. And now we know the road forward to look at construction season 2025 for this project. So I just respectfully ask everybody here to work with us on this process and move forward in a really positive light. This project is going to do nothing but shine a light on Decorah in the most positive way possible. Destination Iowa has awarded over $5 million in funds, both to Mason City and to Sioux City on projects like this. And Decorah has missed out on those because we were told no, again and again and again. So I'll leave it there. I just ask respectfully that people come to the table and work with us in as positive a light and as positive a way as possible, because we're excited and we're at the table and we're ready to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak at this public hearing? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Consider a resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and taking bids for the Decorah 2024 Carlson Park Gateway Trail project.
And you want a
So
motion in the
If,
positive.
I was just going to
Okay.
say, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, if
I
a
didn't
motion
do
could be
that.
made in the affirmative, you can still vote no, even
Right,
if you make the
right.
motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved by Chisholm, seconded by Olson to move ahead with project. Discussion.
I just have a quick question. So if we have to put this in the budget for 25, or is it in, can we just roll this over into the budget? So that's
So the plan was we would do an amendment from, this is carryover from fiscal 24. So
Okay.
the project itself would still be bid and the amendment would be done for fiscal 25.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Chisholm?
No.
Olson?
No.
Hadley?
No.
Neal?
No.
Parker?
No.
Miscelinich?
No.
Zittergren?
No.
Motion declined. Can we just go up to the next one? Anything else? Do I just go on to the next one?
Yep.
Okay. Conduct public hearing on amending chapter 17.84 R5 planned unit development district of the Decorah Municipal Code. You give background on that, please.
Sure. So again, I'll combine backgrounds for item 15, 16, where 15 is the public hearing, 16 is the actionable item. Public hearings required by state code and city code prior to the council adopting or considering an ordinance that changes Decorah zoning code. This public hearing was set at the March 18th meeting, and we haven't received any comments or objections at this time. The proposal is to change the city's R5 planned unit development district. You'll hear me call it PUD. The PUD is intended to be a development or redevelopment that's somewhat flexible regarding land use, building locations, much more so than the single lot conventional method of our zoning code. Changes include decreasing the minimum acres from 5 down to 2 acres. Also changing format of submission from triplicate to a format determined by zoning administrator, which is likely going to be a digital copy and probably 1, maybe 2 print copies for markups. Also changing the process required for modifications to the plan by removing the public hearing requirements, but does allow that a public hearing could still be set for anything less than 10% in density or change in the use of the site. In addition to that, this is completely new concept within Decorah's PUD. It would allow for commercial use as an accessory where there's three criteria that limited commercial use could be done, where the building shall be located no closer than 150 feet from the closest point of an adjacent residential zoning district, measured in a straight line. 2, combined commercial units may not exceed 10% of the total units in the development. Now, this is a per unit, not per square footage type consideration, and must be identified on the development plan with their location. And the third component is all potential uses of commercial units must be submitted as part of the development plan, and only those approved will be considered permitted uses for the development. So this takes on essentially the permitted principal uses within our zoning code. So within the C3, you can only do certain things as far as businesses. And you don't have to call out it's a fairway, you say a grocery store. So the applicant for a PUD would have to identify any and all potential uses they would want as part of that zone, that commercial use.
But they are
Okay.
Can I ask a question based on, because
We're still in
hearing, I
public
guess. Yeah.
Okay. Any other Did you have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to this item on the public hearing? Hearing, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And now
I have a question. Since it's been residential, how do we know what the appropriate uses are then commercially?
That's for P&Z to make a recommendation when the rezoning request is submitted. So that list will come from the person requesting the rezoning. P&Z will make their recommendation, and then council ultimately again would consider that same list, and it'd be on a case-by-case basis.
So it's not like the current guidelines that says you can do this and in this area, you can do this in that area?
Correct. It does not spell out, it puts the onus on the developer to list what they would allow within those zoning or those commercial identified units. And if there is anything that, let's say down the road, they have a commercial enterprise that wants to go in there, and they would then go through because this is now a change in the permitted uses that are listed, they would have to go through the amendment process. So it's the same thing as a public hearing with P&Z, then P&Z's recommendation, hearing with council, then council consideration.
Okay, so then let's say that this went through the process and a person puts in a grocery store or a small market thing, and then another person wants to put in a small market grocery store. Does that person automatically get to do that because we've already said yes to one small market grocery store?
Yep.
I'm going to read for 16. Consider an ordinance amending chapter 17.84 R5 Plan Unit Development District of the Decorah Municipal Code, and this is the first reading.
I move the ordinance.
Second.
Motion made by Zittergren, seconded by Chisel. Further discussion?
I'm really grateful to P&Z for the work that they did in bringing this to us. We have talked about the hurdles to developing anything other than large homes on large single family lots as a major problem for housing availability and affordability in our community. This flexibility of the rules will do a lot to allow people who want to develop homes for people who want to live in our community to have more flexibility in building the kinds of homes that people can afford and that they want, whether that is a pocket neighborhood or a row of townhomes or something else that currently wouldn't be permitted in our housing code. I think that the provision for commercial uses is sensible. I like that it provides a 150-foot buffer, which I think is a nice accommodation to nearby residents who maybe bought a house, not wanting to be near a business. Although having lived in places near businesses before, it's very nice to be able to walk for a cup of coffee or some fruit or whatever. So I guess I'm strongly in favor of this. I think it's really good for the community. And now I'm looking at every parcel I see and dreaming about, wow, is that almost 2 acres? What could that be? Because I think we should make housing possible for everyone who wants to live in Decorah, and not just for those who have or can afford a single family home.
I just want to second Steve's thoughts. We know housing is such a big issue here in Decorah, and anything that gives us, like Steve said, more flexibility to be able to open up new areas with more housing and more different kinds of housing and stuff like that is a good idea. So yeah, thanks to P&Z for looking at this as an option.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Zittergren.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider C3 plan design for Caleb Ballring at 201 West Water Street, 205 West Water Street, and 101 Winnebago Street. Give background on that, please.
Yeah, so my apologies that we had 7 public hearings to start this meeting. But so the C3 design application in front of council, we believe it reached the level of major alteration, plus the fact that historic preservation came back with mixed responses to the application. So we did put it through the full C3 plan design process, which requires historic preservation to weigh in. Those results are then forwarded to the Planning and Zoning Commission. They provide a recommendation then to council for potential award. So the application is for, again, it's the former Donlin building. It does indicate on there, along with repainting the 3 buildings, 3 distinct colors, red, yellow, and blue. It does include areas identified that say mural. However, that mural application is yet to, like, that will follow. So the actual murals themselves are not to be considered as part of this C3 design application. That'll save us a lot of discussion for this section. City Code 1504-040 states historic preservation reviews, provides an advisory recommendation P&Z. That's in the Dropbox. P&Z reviewed the application for conformity with regulations and standards in Chapter 1504, and they have recommended approval. That both Chapter 1504 has been included in Dropbox as well. I do have the original application that might give a little bit better color quality. But I have it here if anyone wants to see the original application, and the applicant is in the audience as well.
I do have a question.
Can I see the original one, Pat?
As far as the mural that currently is there, that would stay in place. Still, anything else would be considered. Is that correct?
That application will come later,
okay,
is my understanding.
So they wouldn't change anything on what's currently there until the application kit comes through for what they are suggesting.
Correct.
Okay.
Right?
Sure. Why don't you come up and state your name and address? That'd be great.
Caleb Ollring, 909 Pleasant Ave. On the application for the mural, I included that not for a specific drawing or a specific design intent, but purely just for the placement of it, and wanted to get I guess, kind of a consensus or approval that a mural even could be in that place, with it being with the mural guidelines being somewhat ambiguous, and with that part of the building also being also both a side street and a front facing street. So how that fits in, if a mural can work there or not, is mostly what that part of the application was for. Okay. If that was approved, then a design intent would follow. So
you may want to just stay there in case they have questions for you. Can you pass that back down, please? Further questions for him?
There's no motion on the table, right?
No.
Nothing yet.
I move approval of the C3 plan design.
And I will second.
Motion made by Zittergrun, seconded by Olson to approve the C3 plan design. Any further questions?
I'm going to thank Caleb for investing in our downtown. This is important activity for our community's fiscal resilience and for our vibrancy too. Our investments in Water Street and our anchor businesses there are crucial. So thanks for being part of that work, and looking forward to seeing what you all are thinking with the mural in the future.
I was going to say, I think that's one of the more popular questions around town is what's going in there.
I want to thank you guys too for being forward thinking and trying to connect with the Nordic heritage that we have around here with the color scheme that you guys have come up with. My
Absolutely,
wife and I were just fortunate enough to travel to Bergen last year or whatever, and that's like the iconic portrait you see of Norway with those colors, along the fjord there of the harbor in Bergen.
I personally didn't pick the colors. I'm not qualified to do that, but I did print out some resumes of the women that I did have. Yeah, I'll just give.
Always good to know when you need to bring people in, right?
And I just hope that with you guys taking on this project and remodeling that and doing that to that building, you'll inspire others to do maybe some of the same things with some of the other buildings downtown.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Motion carried.
I'm
Thank
excited,
you.
guys. Thanks.
Consider a resolution amending the personnel pay plan for the city of Decorah.
Okay, so the city council has discussed and approved through ordinance the creation of public works director as well as the street superintendent position. Through those discussions, we talked about eliminating the assistant positions within the street department, water department, and being able to possibly eliminate a position at the wastewater treatment plant through attrition. The superintendent positions of the street department, water department, and wastewater plant would have less responsibility with the creation of the public works director, and also have a lower pay range than the existing superintendents, again, as part of this attrition process. As part of the restructuring, city code was amended to create both those positions. As I'm preparing to appoint these positions, council sets pay ranges within the personnel pay plan. As drafted, the street superintendent position is drafted as previously discussed with a minimum of $61,215 with a maximum of $83,475 that would remain, would not adjust until June 30th of 2025. So this would go into effect immediately and then be observed for the full next fiscal year. The public works director position is as previously discussed with a minimum of $77,910 with a maximum of $105,735,000. That does not adjust again until June 30th, 2025. However, this is the same exact scale as the existing department superintendents. So an additional provision is proposed for the purposes of transitioning this public works model, with the maximum being $15,000 higher than the standard range for a current superintendent. If we don't do this, there's no incentive for an existing superintendent to take the public works director position. And then we would, if we were to hire an external candidate as opposed to an internal candidate that has no financial incentive to apply for this position and take on more responsibility, we have additional costs as opposed to hiring internal, as well as hiring an internal candidate speeds up that attrition process and results in significant savings to the city annually, which that financial analysis is including in the Dropbox, and that amounts to about $100,000 every year.
Motion to approve the resolution amending the personnel pay plan.
I'll second.
Motion made by Olson, seconded by Ms. Linich. Any further discussion?
This seems like it leans heavily toward appointing an internal candidate without an external search. Can we do that with Iowa, with the welcome home?
Veterans preference law.
Mm-hmm.
An external search has been conducted. We did advertise, interviewed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's already been done. Okay. I'm getting ready to appoint, hopefully.
Gotcha.
Okay, any other further questions? Roll call.
Olson.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider an ordinance amending section 8.44.040 yard waste disposal for the Decorah Municipal Code, first reading.
Okay, so this, unfortunately, it wasn't discussed at the last work session where we did some code updates, but staff did bring up with the yard waste site. We're receiving more and more material out there, and tight space is getting a bit tight. And so staff is recommending that a previous requirement be reinstated in code, that contractors be required to chip limbs and brush under 8 inches in diameter. With the last year, we did result in burning, or we did have to resort, to burning a few times to try and regulate that material out there, keep the amount that we had down, and just the amount of material that's been coming in through the contractors. If we can require them to chip it, it's going to go a lot further in space.
Make a motion. I'll make a motion to amend section 844 yard waste disposal for the Decorah Municipal Code.
Second.
Motion made by Neal, seconded by Olson.
Just contractors. It doesn't get the homeowner that.
Correct. Correct. Just contractors.
Is there a reason we're doing this by ordinance rather than by resolution? Because if it's by resolution, wouldn't it allow us more flexibility with seasonal variability or load of capacity?
It does, but the enforcement of an ordinance is much more than a resolution. So we can actually cite for violation of city ordinance.
Right, but we key lock this, so, right?
We do.
Okay.
We.
So ordinance is the way, ordinance is staff recommendation.
So we
without
do give
question.
keys.
Yeah.
No, we give keys to contractors, same with residents as they request. That doesn't mean everyone still follows the rules out there because they have keys. We still catch people that are dumping garbage out there. We still catch people that are not putting stuff in correct piles. An ordinance is a much stronger enforcement mechanism.
Sure.
Is there something we can do in the event of, let's say we have a derecho, Decorah, or and we have a lot of trees down.
You wish for a good cleansing tornado too.
Yeah, and we have a lot of trees down. And we do have a a push to just get town cleaned up and get our stuff somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
With this ordinance in effect, and that were to happen, would we be able to go and kind of like temporarily stop it? If we're asking for a lot of people to clean up trees. And
how's an emergency disaster work if the mayor proclaims, is it like the governor where she can just no?
The mayor actually, we did look at the set COVID. There's kind of martial law light, but I don't think you I don't think you want to necessarily do that. But so to Brent's point, I think that would be maybe a little bit of a handicap in that situation. I mean, yeah.
Is that where we would want them to go though? I mean, if we literally had a catastrophic event in town and we had that much tree removal, maybe there would be another site location that we would want to do it. We'd have to burn.
That is true.
And we probably wouldn't want to burn all that there.
I would think we would do like Cedar Rapids, have multiple drop zones.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Should it down, or can you temporarily suspend
So, John, I just quick sidebar over here. We could add very easily that this provision could be suspended by resolution of the council, so that in that event, it's approve a resolution and that part is lifted.
Perfect. Somebody want to do a friendly amendment to their motion?
I think I said
you were the first.
Oh, I was. Okay, I'll make a friendly amendment to add in language that council may so choose to form a resolution to suspend.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Neal?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Miscelinich?
Aye.
Zittergruen?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider an ordinance amending Decorah sign ordinance and creating chapter 15.2 of the Decorah Municipal Code. This is the first reading for this.
Okay. John, you want to drive? I guess I could read my background, then I'll read my background, then John can fill in the blanks. So the proposed ordinance is a result of council's discussion, which included a previously considered ordinance that failed, as well as the March 25th work session. Primary change includes moving many provisions of the city sign ordinance out of Title 17 zoning and therefore would not be eligible for a variance. The definitions from the previously failed ordinance for digital and electronic signs are included. Digital signs are still proposed as prohibited while allowing electronic signs. Electronic sign provisions are included in the proposed section 15.20.060 and 15.20.065 is a new section drafted after the discussion of the last work session that included wayfinding provisions establishing wayfinding signs. An appeal process needs to be established for individuals that feel a decision from the sign official is incorrect. So that appeal is directed towards the Board of Adjustments. This is not a variance. This is if somebody feels that they were aggrieved by the sign official's determination.
Yeah, it's based on the council, as Travis said, based on the last discussion with the council, the primary changes you see here from the last time you looked at it have to do with electronic signs. And then I added a new section on wayfinding, and that wayfinding's kind of challenging, but I did find an Iowa DOT program that I didn't exactly copy it, but I modeled it after that and then found some other examples and tweaked it a little bit. But I think with that wayfinding, something you got to take into consideration is there's limited real estate, so to speak, where those wayfinding signs you may want to go. So how are you going to manage that? And I recommend that there should be an annual permit fee. If you approve a wayfinding sign, I think that applicant, if you're going to have it for, especially for commercial purposes, I don't think they pay a one-time fee and it stays up there in perpetuity. I think it should be renewed every year. And if you get to a point where you have more applicants than you have space, how do you resolve that? Is it first come, first serve? Do you go to a lottery? I mean, the way I drafted it, I put a lottery, but this is all up for discussion and revision based upon what you think would be appropriate. And I believe I got to look at it, but there is more of a sign program that can be adopted by the council to provide some more flexibility here that would be authorized by this ordinance. Because I think you're going to have to provide the sign official some guidance, but also allow them a little bit of flexibility in how this goes and working with applicants to get their signs. But again, I think you also have to limit what's the size of the signs that you're going to permit and where are they going to be on what blocks. And something I also considered, again, trying to keep this out of Board of Adjustment jurisdiction, is not do it by zoning district. Because once you do it by zoning district, arguably it's under Board of Adjustment. What if you take, I'm just throwing out an example, but a mile of Water Street that maybe crosses some zoning districts or something like that. Or, Water Street, Mechanic, Montgomery, take some arterial roads for the sign program. That's just some suggestions of things to think about.
So from my understanding is that this code essentially then provides us the opportunity to create a wayfinding sign resolution. So this doesn't tell us what kind of wayfinding signs are official. We have to then come up with that.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
It does set some of the parameters like size. I know
Sure.
Size, location.
But then we as a council in a work session can decide how we want to handle wayfinding signs and that is a resolution that way.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
And then one other thing I did not put in here that you need to fill in because I didn't even know where you'd want to begin with the electronic sign regulations in 15.20.60A. I suggest that there be a limitation on the size of the electronic sign in comparison to the rest of the sign.
Oh, yeah, good call.
Because I envision this, I'm using the gas station signs as my kind of what I'm looking at as an example. And you want to, yeah, what percentage of the sign face do you want to allow?
So that is currently a blank in the ordinance. So a motion made should include filling in that blank.
Do
What?
you,
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you have a recommended percentage? I mean, what's,
Well, it all depends on the target. If the target is something like the gas station pricing and signs similar to that, then a smaller percentage, maybe 20, 25%, perfectly acceptable. If you want to allow for I'm trying to think of, maybe I shouldn't call out specific businesses downtown, but one that has kind of a LED light bar, message bar that it itself is fairly small, but you're able to put up a static message on it. That might be 100% if you want to allow a message type electronically conveyed. But if you want to limit it to something similar to fuel prices or things like that, 20%.
as drafted, John's suggested language says that an electronic sign may only display numerals, right?
Correct.
And so I guess your concern about
Not alpha.
what?
Sorry. Numerals meaning
I think just numbers,
not alphabet.
Correct. I mean, I think I appreciated the tidiness of that, John, as a way of getting what we wanted, which was allowing for standard gas station and maybe other businesses who want to update prices without, allowing for the proliferation of, neon signs in our downtown. So I think it's great as drafted. And I guess I don't know what the biggest gas station number board in town would be in terms of percentage, but maybe 50 seems safe.
I'd say 50 is safe. Yeah.
Okay. I move the motion with 50% in the 15.20.60A.
Okay, we have a motion by Zittergruen,
I'll second.
seconded by Neil.
Thought I was way alone there. Thanks.
No, I thought it.
Knock, knock.
Well, I was just going to say, I'd gotten a call from Paul Scott and Kate, and they'd seen up in Bayfield, Wisconsin, a sign that several businesses had up there that was like a post coming out from the side of the building at a 90-degree angle that had like a banner hanging down that said either open or welcome. And they talked about how welcoming that was to that city. Is that something that would apply under our current sign ordinance? Would that be a possibility that they could do something like that downtown, or is that?
So
Maybe we're getting way into the weeds here,
Yeah.
different things that we're not talking about here, but
I
that
did
had come up
I
because
did
this was on our agenda tonight.
Yeah, I did see that comment from those people. And I don't know that it would be, well, first of all, I think it exceeds the permitted size of a temporary sign. So that's one issue right there. Outside of that, maybe it could be permissible. I have a little bit of a concern about First Amendment preemption that you're not telling people what to put on their sign, but aren't you kind of prohibiting all other messages on similar signs? And as a rule of thumb, and the Supreme Court's kind of been all over the place on this, we shouldn't be looking at what is said inside the sign. We'll put the numerals aside for now from the
size and type of sign or
right,
something like that.
Right. I don't like getting into the message.
Right. And they said they'd be willing, the business owners that were discussing this downtown said they'd be willing to work with anything that would fall under our code and make it work. So I don't think they had any specific thing they wanted to do at this point in time.
Just some other provisions. I think they'd have to have sufficient clearance over the sidewalk.
Right.
I think our code does reference that, right?
But at some point in time, this would be a possibility, some way to fit this into the.
Just not dictating what the message is.
Okay.
And then everybody can put their own message in that same square footage.
Right.
Looked like it to me.
Yeah, I think theirs, if I did my simple math right, was about 42 square feet, and ours is 32 square feet for I considered it a temporary sign.
Okay.
Right, which includes someone can put a flag outside their business of any any message. Currently.
Well, not outside.
Yeah.
There's a difference between outside and on. I want to be clear. Outside, meaning on sidewalk, and that's part of the retail sidewalk dining and display permit that has a smaller requirement, 2 foot by 4 foot.
So could a person hang a giant flag from their building under this code?
Less than 32 square feet.
Sounds like that portion or that topic should be looked into more and brought back.
Well, I mean, I'm okay with the way this is. I'm not questioning that.
No, I know.
Right. I am too. They had just brought that up since this was on the discussion.
If they have a better, like, once they have a firm plan,
Right.
we can re-amend the ordinance.
Right,
Yeah.
and they said they'd work with whatever.
And to be clear, Bayfield's ordinance that they shared has the message in there, Bayfield is open in their city code. So I don't know what they're.
I'd rather.
I just say somebody else had an opinion different from me.
Okay.
Yeah, or it hasn't come up yet that somebody's
Okay.
questioned it.
So we have a motion and a second.
Can we talk about wayfinding a bit?
Yep.
Go ahead. Brent.
Nope. I kind of wanted to bring that up too. I wanted to make sure that, we're moving on with the wayfinding or have a plan or have it scheduled at a next meeting. We've all gotten emails, and I'm going to throw it out there with Convergence with their sign. I think we should have a conversation about that, about how to feature wayfinding and help them out and help other businesses that are off Water Street that are also, not necessarily struggling, but want to promote their business that's, back off of Water Street a little bit. So I just wanted to make sure that we have the wording in here, but we continue on with that to kind of come up with a plan and keep that going.
Did you all participate in the wayfinding survey that they sent us?
Yes.
Good job. Travis, I know that there has been some discussion in the community about the kiosks that cover the traffic signal cabinets. While they were done in the best of intent years ago, and I think it was a culmination of betterment and SMID. I'm not 100% sure, through some private grant funds and whatnot. I don't know. Hotel Motel 2. Some of those kiosks have outlived their life expectancy at this point, just because of deterioration and whatnot, especially the Washington Street and Winnebago kiosks, and maybe the Norm Smith Plaza kiosk as well. I mean, they're just, they're weather beaten. I know you've gone through many meetings. What's this ownership status?
Yep. So at the last SMID meeting, SMID said, Betterment have them. Finally, we got at least, all right, now it's going to be Betterment's issue. Betterment has hired a contractor to repair all of the kiosks that are out there, and are actually meeting this week on Wednesday with that as an agendized item to discuss and hopefully have action. We have discussed at previous meetings implementing even one side as like I know I brought it up here before in the past, a mall directory, for lack of a better term, of our downtown district. That apparently has not been well received by some of historical type members that said, all right, we want our stuff back. And so trying to navigate through all these invested individuals that participated in this project many years ago.
Sure.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
we don't have a firm solution for that, but there is a forward progress on that. We also have the wayfinding project in place, potentially. And if we adopt the sign code as is, I'm not sure that, John, it's cooked enough as well as the sign officer and the other things that we have to do. So I think it's great we're having the discussion, especially because Convergence has been vocal about this, as have other side street businesses in the past. It's very difficult sometimes to get traffic off of the main street. I want to be sensitive to that, but I also don't want to hold up the adoption of an ordinance as well. So we didn't have any contingencies on our motion, right?
Just the 50%.
Right. How do we address that sign officer, sign construction, wayfinding, things that are now vague in the adoption of an ordinance?
So the sign official, that we termed it as that because it started off with it was listed as zoning administrator, and John and I's back and forth. It was, well, if it's the zoning administrator and you kind of like identifying any specific zoning within this code for this is allowed in C3, this is allowed. We just wanted to get zoning out of it. And so we called it the sign official, which is primarily going to be me, unless until maybe the point that I pawn that off on somebody, because depending on the size and scope of this wayfinding, I'm not going to be the best one to administer this program. So that is why it is specifically calling out a sign official, that duties and responsibilities can be handed off. And then the other part of your question was?
It was about the referenced, well, the wayfinding program.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's still in progress.
Right.
So we can address that separately after the fact.
Correct. The way John drafted it, it sets the framework up, but the actual wayfinding program can be adopted by resolution of the council later.
I'd like to see that on our next agenda, a discussion, assuming that this passes. I'm seeing other council heads nod as well. So
yeah, I was just wanting to make sure the process was clear and clean.
I had just one comment that I think we should clean up before we pass this. The word acidity is in there.
Yeah.
Just make sure that we.
Yeah.
What's that supposed to say?
No, it's activity. I think I caught it on when I was rereading.
The activity or site must pay for the cost of a new site. That's great. So friendly amendment.
No, right. Good. I'm glad you said that.
Okay. Are we done with the discussion?
I have a question. This language in here regarding the wayfinding sign would not prohibit us from making a resolution that's more stringent than this. So let's say that we'd say that wayfinding signs are only for brick and mortar businesses. We can do that, even though in here there's it alludes to activities and.
You can't make it more liberal, so to speak, than what's in here.
Right, but I'm asking, can we make it more restrictive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And that too, you just can't take away.
Right.
As long as we apply the rules uniformly, that's going to be okay. All right.
Well, yeah, you come up with the rules and apply them uniformly, and they don't violate anything that's in the ordinance.
Since we have time to discuss a little more, just thanks a lot, John. I know you've took on a lot of diverse feedback and you did your best, I think, to consolidate the sense of the council on a pretty intricate, complicated thing. So Travis, I know you were part of the conversation too. Thank you.
I'll fully admit after the last meeting, John and I looked at each other, the work session. All right, what do you want?
Yeah.
I said, you take the sign, I'll take everything else.
No, thanks, guys, because this was a good job at going through this. Yeah.
And I just want to be clear. So there are some situations that regard signs that are still in zoning that just like billboards are a great example. They have to be in zoning as a permitted principal use within just that zoning classification. Because I don't think council wants
highway
to go
commercial,
to the extent,
right?
Yeah, C1 is the highway commercial.
Yeah.
But I didn't think council wanted to go to the extent where we're allowing them everywhere or completely disbanding them everywhere.
Thank you for your work.
And so the Board of Adjustment can still decide to make billboards digital.
No.
Okay.
That's since the digital portion is pulled out with this ordinance into chapter or title 15, That's no longer under their purview.
Okay, great.
What you said?
Use your mic, please. Please call for a vote in her absence.
Discussion.
So they didn't do anything while I was gone.
I
Ryan?
asked for a vote, like the third eye fell out of my forehead.
Roll call.
Good.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Miss Linich.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Chisel.
No.
Hadley.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider an ordinance amending chapter 9.30 liquor and intoxication of the Decorah Municipal Code, first reading.
Okay, so at the work session where we talked about ordinances, it was pointed out there are some instances now impact trivia. I mean, you heard me read off the litany of Thursday nights that we do the street closure request for impact that since they extend their alcohol service area to include that closure, that's how they are allowed to have alcohol out there based on existing code. However, I believe when like Nordic Fest pulls their alcohol permit, their service area does not include all of Water Street in which people are able to carry around an open container. So current city code prohibits both the consumption of alcohol as well as possession of an open container on streets or any other public property unless it's covered by a liquor license. So the proposed ordinance would simply add one phrase to both sections of code, both the consumption of alcohol and the possession of an open container, would still leave it prohibited except otherwise authorized by resolution of the council is how the proposed ordinance is drafted. Now, do want to point out, I have it as unless otherwise authorized by resolution. If council wants, for example, Nordic Fest fills out a special event permit application. If you eliminate the word resolution and unless otherwise authorized by the council, special event permit applications are also approved by council. We could do just a little checkbox on the application if alcohol is considered, and that can be a consideration that's approved as well. So it's drafted as a resolution. So Nordic Fest would have to have both the special event permit plus a resolution adopted, or we could eliminate the resolution portion and it could just go on the special event.
That would allow you to buy beer at their beer garden, but walk down to, say, the courthouse to watch an event?
No, the defined area still would be, yeah. Yep, not a free for all across town as long as it's valid.
Why doesn't a liquor license cover it for Nordic Fest? Do they not get a license?
Because it's typically the sale area.
Okay.
And so they get a liquor license, an alcohol permit. But the defined service area doesn't necessarily also correspond with the outlines of the beer garden, if you will.
And they can't wait, those two we can't just change their application so it comes together with that?
They could.
Okay. I guess I'm curious why this way and not that way. Like, why aren't they applying for a liquor license for their whole beer garden?
This was one that we just brought up at the last as a catch-all that should that be an issue with Nordic Fest or any other organization holding similar event, that could just be waived by council. Because right now we let it go on without enforcement, essentially.
This is discussion then, yeah?
We haven't had any motions.
That's why I'm asking if I'm gonna.
Go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'd move for approval.
I'll second.
This ordinance so we can discuss.
With resolution of the council? Because it's drafted as resolution or with a resolution of the council.
Yes.
Okay.
I think case by case would be good.
Okay, and who seconded?
Parker will second.
Okay. Motion made by Chisel, seconded by Parker. Now discussion.
Did you have a comment, Ron? Did you have a comment?
I did. I wanted to make sure I was on being Hoyle.
Okay.
21 and 22 are similar, right? Your checkbox concept is 22.
22, yes, is a checkbox.
So with 21 and 22, if we want the checkbox option, we should vote no on 21 and yes to 22.
You could alter it because there are different sections of code. So we'd still need to approve an ordinance that amends 930, those two sections within that chapter. We'd still have to amend existing code, but we don't want by resolution of the council if it's just a checkbox on the special event permit application.
And isn't 21 about alcohol and 22 about food trucks?
Correct. But their application of just a checkbox on the application is the same if it's not by resolution of council.
Chief, do you have any, I was wondering, do you have any thoughts on resolution 21 and the permitting of license in this way?
No. But do you care if it's by resolution or just by simple action?
Even if we end up adding a checkbox, which I'm kind of disinclined to do, but even if we do add it, this gives us flexibility on top of that to allow for cases that we currently may not even be thinking about. So I think it's good to give that discretion to evaluate things on a case-by-case basis. So I hope we pass this one.
Okay, then I have one other question about if they don't technically have a license that covers the area by which then who's responsible for that drinking of the person not in their area, but on a city street? Are we responsible or are they responsible?
The drinker is responsible to a certain point.
Right, but if they
they
bring someone to suit, no, I mean, it does seem like your liquor license comes with a responsibility. Yeah. If they're drinking on a city street that isn't covered by anyone's liquor license, then that seems like more responsibility on us.
Yeah. So interject if I'm incorrect. So consumption, possession of open container, public intoxication are three separate and distinct. So I can have a can of open beer and not have drank it. I have an open container. I take my first drink. I have now consumed in public. I have drank 10 of said beers. Now I am drunk in public. So there's varying levels there. This would allow by resolution of the council only to possess and consume. You're not allowed to be drunk in public.
No, I guess my thought is, so if a person goes into a bar and overconsumes, the bar is liable for them overconsuming, right?
They still would be if whoever sold and provided the liquor is responsible.
Even when it's out of their purview of their liquor license.
Well, they still have to have a liquor license.
It's now it's in a realm that it's not covered there. Right?
So the liability follows the sale. So I have provided a drunk person with more alcohol. That's why they're liable.
Okay, if the liability follows the sale, then that is more comfortable.
Yeah, that's not going to be on the city.
Okay.
I guess I just have one comment in reference to the Nordic Fest portion of this. I know I've had several people complain that live on the 600 block of West Water Street, that 100 block of Grove, and the 100 block of South Mill, in reference to having moved that beer garden up there and having people consuming liquor and the bandstand being there and stuff like that. The loudness that they've had a number of complaints that I've received from that. So.
Okay. Any further discussion pertaining to this? Roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Olson.
No.
Dittergruen.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Miss Linich.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Consider an ordinance amending chapter 5.26 special events for the Decorah Municipal Code, first reading.
Okay.
as was the other one.
So the proposed ordinances, again, result of that March 25th work session. Changes include having a 30-day requirement for application because our current code doesn't state when it needs to be turned in. But code does say that staff will review, provide comments, council needs to consider an award. So 30 days we inserted as a requirement for application. Draft also removes the requirement of a detailed map of the event submitted to the city clerk after approval. It had not been the practice before, and as discussed, we drafted removing it. As has been our current practice, we're transitioning everything we can from rates established within code to rates established by council. Now, there are certain things, water, sewer, utility rates, that have to be approved by code. But this draft has that the fees will be adopted by resolution of the council. In addition to the chief of police having the ability to revoke special event permit, proposed change also includes the city manager. So anyone that also includes adding if somebody needs to appeal that decision because the city manager revoked, that change is reflected as well. And the proposed ordinance also includes the definition of food trucks and the creation of a new code section 5.26.150 that would allow food trucks in conjunction with a special event permit. And there is within that 5.26.150 that allows the city to provide further programs around food trucks. So should this get to a point we want to provide more clarity on it or establish a food truck program in relation to special event, it is in code that allows for the city to establish other rules.
Great.
Motion to approve the ordinance.
Second.
Motion made by Olson, seconded by Neal. Discussion?
So the food truck would just fall under the special event fee. They don't pay a separate fee to be there.
Well, it's kind of a catch-22. The ordinance, once it's approved, that allows food trucks, says the fees are set by resolution. So when that resolution is considered, a food truck could be part of that fee. That if council wants to add a food truck fee, you could.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Olson?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Zittergruen? Aye. Chisel?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Miscelinich?
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider an ordinance amending chapter 6.2 dogs, control and licensing of the Decorah Municipal Code, first reading.
As drafted, removes the at-large definition, means currently reads that you don't have the dog either on a leash or one of the other definitions is at heel beside a competent person and obedient to that person's command. Proposed change removes that section and adds electronic restraint within range of the device under that definition. So as long as the dog is on leash or this electronic leash, and the electronic leash is within range. So yes, I've got my dog on an electronic leash, but they're 200 feet in front of me in Palisades. You're in violation of the ordinance as it's drafted. I don't think they go that far. But no.
Motion to approve the ordinance.
I'll second Parker.
Motion made by Olson, seconded by Parker. Further discussion? Roll call?
Olson?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Chisel?
No.
Hadley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Miscelinich?
Aye.
Zittergruen?
Aye.
Motion carried. Discussion and possible action regarding Groupcast communication tool. Carrie?
I just wanted to address this. Sustainability had been looking at the Groupcast and other options. Groupcast is what we use where we send out messages like through the cell phone and everything, and it's time to renew. So I just wanted to get feedback to make sure that we're all still on the same page. It's going to cost about $2,100, and right now we have 147 people on it. I don't think we've ever broke, maybe right around 200. It did go up a little bit once the parking tickets started going out, but then it dropped right away again after that. So just kind of want to get a feel, a consensus. We have tried pushing it out more. It just kind of seems like we can't get a large number. And if this is still the way we want to go, absolutely for it. It's not that hard to run. Just want to make sure that everybody's basically still supportive of us spending that $2,100 on that amount of people.
I can't remember. How are we advertising that to people or trying to get people to sign up on that?
We've done press releases in the past. We try to push it when people come in. It was pushed, like I said, the police were really great about pushing that during the, it's been on the water bills.
Signage when you walk into City Hall. We've done social media. I've talked about on Our Town. I see Darren online, so maybe he can tee it up tomorrow.
And you know, it may be something that we have to continue to put out there for people. I appreciate getting the things from Leslie, especially in the wintertime when it was, you know, for snow emergencies and stuff. I don't know what the alternative would be for something different.
I know that we've talked, we feel like we do a good job with the social media. And I think there's more people checking that. But I would say.
And was there a thing that you had to go on and renew?
Yes.
Yes.
So every year or once a year you have to renew.
Yes.
So then we would have to.
And then we would see, and that's when usually we'd see the numbers drop is when a group would come on and then not renew.
Is there a way to get rid of that feature so people don't have to renew?
I would say we have to allow that opt out, but I don't know about the auto renew. I'm not sure on that, but.
It's so hard because you hear as council people on how we don't communicate, and people want communication and they want to know things and they want, why can't we be like the school district and have this? So it's really hard to say we shouldn't do this when I feel like I hear that all the time, but then in a defense of us, it feels like we're doing it and people aren't finding it. So I do question, like,
right,
what does it take to find people?
Yeah.
I think I've referred people to it to go in and sign up. How long have we been doing this now? Do you know?
2 years.
2 years. Okay.
2 years.
Have you talked to Group Cast? Like, do other municipalities do it? Did they have a 5-year adoption phase? Did they, like, what have other communities done?
Dropped it. I hate to say that. The only reason I'm questioning is we're trying to look at the things, what makes us more efficient, what saves money, what makes sense. But I also know that there is people that feel like that we need to have this. And so that's why I wanted to get, because council is who spends the money. Yeah.
When you say the other communities have dropped it, is that the same reason? They're just not getting enough people to sign up for it? Is that pretty much the cost and
well,
not,
the other
not
thing,
reaching enough people?
The other thing, if you have it and somebody complains they aren't seeing, you know, some of these things, you say, well, go on, sign up.
We do.
So it's like a backup.
I guess what I can say is I feel like we've done everything that we can do.
Yeah.
And so if we're good with this number and we still want to continue, we're absolutely fine with that. We just want to make sure that that information is being relayed to you.
And so if a person
We'll
wants to find out about
pushing it.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. And if we decide to keep it, we'll continue pushing it.
If a person wants to find out about snow removal, what side of the street, the best place to do is social media? You're laughing.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking of the police department's posts last year and how fun and exciting those got.
Oh, yeah, they are good posts. They are.
I mean, unfortunately, with algorithms on social media, even if people try to follow everything the city puts out. There's no guarantee they're going to see it. And so I don't think we should count on that. That's what I like about this program is that it is a, if people want to be advised of city snow emergencies and so forth, there is a way to do it. I sort of see what the mayor's saying there, that even if not too many people take it up, it does at least give us something to point to and say, this is a tool and we provided it for you. I'm curious if there's a cheaper alternative. I looked at MailChimp as a possibility, like doing basically an email blast instead, because I don't think any of the things that we send out require people to see it immediately, right away. They can usually often see it within a few hours. So I'm wondering about considering asking staff to consider, is there a cheaper option that might be less intrusive? I think there'd be other benefits to MailChimp because then our message length isn't limited to 240 characters or whatever. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. I think we should probably not spend $2,100, but I do think we should have a way that people can sign up for direct communications from us.
I will say that Chopper and I have been probably over a year. Everything's actually quite a bit more expensive. But we can look for less, and I'll look at that MailChimp, and we'll just continue kind of getting the feeling that people would rather see it there than not there. So we can.
Because MailChimp is essentially people would get an email, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's email marketing tool. And I was looking at pricing and we could get it for less than Groupcast. So
yeah, the text messaging versus the email is where the markup's at for most of these that are direct notification text messages. That's where
money starts going up.
So maybe it's worth looking into that because then we still have the mayor's, we do have a way to do this and you could sign up for this, but we're not spending $2,100 a year that we could maybe better spend elsewhere.
When is the renewal due for this $2,100?
Now.
Okay.
I really like the idea of the email. I mean, I think it's important that we have direct communication with people who want it. And so if it's email, I think that is great. It doesn't have to be the phone if we can find a cheaper way to do it.
Okay, so do we have any type of consensus as to if we could continue to spend the money?
Or would you rather us not renew it and then look elsewhere?
Don't spend the money.
Yeah, I think if we could try to have something in place by the fall so that when winter comes, people can get their direct emails back. And
yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if we have the ability to communicate with the 147 members who currently get, and just let them know.
Push it out through Google.
Yeah. Check us out on email.
Okay. How about on this side? And not to spend the money.
I'm on board with that.
It's great. Thank you.
Okay. Discussion on chapter 2.22 Board of Park Commissioners.
Okay, so I'm trying not to take it personal, but filling a lot of staff vacancies at this point. One of which is with Andy Nimrod's announcement that he's retiring. City Code section 2.22.110 director duties reads, the director of Parks and Recreation shall be responsible to and under the direction of the city manager. City Code section 2.22.100 director of Parks and Recreation reads that there is created a Parks and Recreation director whose appointment shall be made by the city manager with the recommendation of the city council and the Parks and Recreation Board. So what I desire from council is clarification on this, because when I asked Andy what it was like when he interviewed for this position, he said there were 15 people, standing room only, in the conference room where the 15 people interviewed him. We're not going to do that. That is, not myself or any other position interviews with 15 people in one sitting. So does council believe this to be where council basically establishes its own representation? Is it the mayor? Same on the park board side. Is it the chair? Does the park board establish who's going to help interview with this process? So on top of that, we have had, we've discussed this before, So we have had some instances where elected officials have tried to direct staff on a daily basis to do certain tasks. One of the issues, or excuse me, one of the reasons that a city administrator or manager is hired and is established is to remove individual elected officials from exerting their own personal influence over the city's operations and decisions. So my question of council is, how do you want me to incorporate council and park board's opinions on this interview process, knowing at the end of the day, the city manager is hiring this position and this person reports to the city manager? And how do you want this process to play out?
What if it mirrored like how we did chief's position, right? So you have, I mean, when the chief interviews, they interviewed with committees of council, civil service. I don't remember if superintendents had their own meeting or if they were also on committee. Mm-hmm. So it was more of a committee type process. Then they provided feedback. Because ultimately you have the hiring decision or council?
I do.
Okay.
It's a little bit different.
I get a question, and prior to moving to Decorah, I lived in West Union, and I was on their park and rec board, and it was appointed by the mayor. And when Decorah it's elected, how did that happen? How is it elected here and not other communities that it may be appointed by the mayor?
There was a law change in the 70s?
Early, like 1972. I think prior to that, there was a code provision that allowed cities to have elected park boards. And I think that was common is what I get. And then that law was repealed, and it didn't say you couldn't have an elected park board, but from what I've seen, most cities got rid of the elected park board and they went to an appointed, basically advisory park board. Mm-hmm. So Decorah is one of few communities in Iowa that still have an elected park board.
Yeah, I went on and did a bunch of research on it, and I found that, like, what were the towns that I looked at? Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, Dubuque, Waverly, Oline, Cresco, Waukon. They all have appointed park boards. We're one of the very few, as John said, that actually has an elected park board. So I don't know if there's any appetite at this. If we're going to do something about it, probably now would be the time with Andy leaving and bringing on a new park director. If there's any appetite to change that, how we determine who our park board people are as opposed to elected.
And that's by ordinance.
Yeah, there's a process. You have to pass a resolution to have a public hearing, You pass a resolution saying you're going to abolish the park board. Then you got to pass a resolution actually abolishing the park board. And then you'd probably have to pass another resolution appointing an appointed park board as opposed to an elected one.
So
that sounds
it's a longer time frame just because of all the steps involved. Andy is done
End of April.
30th.
Okay.
But I feel like we're talking about two different things. One,
a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like the question that we have at hand is how do we want to hire the park superintendent, right? And then now we're talking about how we want to have a park board.
But we have two conflicting code sections.
Right.
So it's code cleanup
at the same
time. So it is related, right?
I think any process that can credibly be said to include recommendations from the city council and Parks and Rec board would suffice to fulfill the requirements of our code. And for me, you're asking for our thoughts. I'd like to see the mayor or an appointee from the council sit with you, and maybe the same from one person from the park board. I feel like that's not too unwieldy of a hiring team. And obviously, the council, and we hired you to make these kinds of decisions for us. So I would err on the side of so maximum flexibility, but maybe with one representative from each board at the table too.
And that is the number wise, even going through public works director and all the recent hires that have been done. 3 is my typical panel, if you will. Myself, another department head most closely resembling that, and a lot of times Carrie as the city clerk finance officer. And so if you start getting above 3, you start to get too unwieldy as well.
But that's how we hired you.
Yeah. And Gary,
So, you know, are you criticizing our process?
Oh, that was, yeah.
You know, I hear you.
Yeah.
It makes your job more complex, but the park and rec director manages the second largest budget in our city. It also touches the most people, just because of the amount of service that they provide. I feel that your historic understanding of how this process worked also kind of shows how important that position is. So while I appreciate your desire to have a clean process, I think it's also important that the community, that there's community buy-in and outside of an elected official. So, you know, Park Rec is important. City council is important. I would also hope that there would be a citizen appointee.
Just a question. Do we have, where else have we, well, we've done it for the, like.
Police chief.
Police chief and city manager,
Mm-hmm.
which is all encompassing. But we haven't done it in any other, like, well, if you take the library board, of course, that's under the code.
That's not us.
It's not us.
Absolutely. Huh?
It's not us.
Well, we do, the mayor appoints for.
Oh, I'm not talking about the Park Rec board.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the interview process.
You're talking about the interview process.
I'm asking that we have a 4th member,
okay,
a community member, not an elected official as well.
Oh, I gotcha. Thank you.
But I actually think we're actually talking about more than 4 members, which I'm okay with. I mean, I think anybody that I've ever hired, it's been more than 3. Three people to me, I guess. Actually, I prefer a little bit larger than 3. I agree, not the entire boards of each, but I do like your suggestion of the mayor, a council member, someone from Park Rec, a superintendent, and Carrie. To me, that seemed reasonable. I guess, given how we hired you, how we hired Carrie, how we hired the chief, how we hire a professor at Luther College, how a teacher gets hired. You know, I mean, every teacher that's hired is more people than 3. So I guess it's not a lot to ask to be more than 3.
Okay. So again, I want to preface this with, this is not a power trip ego type thing, but as the person responsible for that appointment and they work under the direction of the city manager, my job is to carry out what this council, their purview is. If I am one of 5 people that are participating in the interview panel, I'm hiring who I believe is best qualified to carry out the goals and objectives of this council. My concern is that if we have a panel of 5 people, that these 2 say Joe needs to do it, I say Stacy needs to do it, and these 2 over here are like John needs to do it, and I hire and appoint Stacy as code says, that person, Stacy's now behind the 8 ball with the other 4 people that participate in this process. So what I'm getting at is, if council wants to have, so the examples given with myself and the police chief, neither one of those are appointed by the city manager, including the police chief, as a mayoral appointment with council approval. Myself is a council appointed position. These are staff level positions now that we are having elected officials or even members of the citizens that are saying, well, I like Joe. That citizen has no responsibility to this council, nor to the fact that results need to be carried out.
I think the risk that one way to put this in perspective is when we hired the city manager and the clerk, we opened it up to get input from our city superintendents because we thought it was important that they had a voice, and we took that risk, right? I mean, can you imagine if they had told us someone different and we had hired someone different? There is that trust of like, the more minds together. So I understand the uncomfortability of it. I do. But I also think that it's important to have multiple perspectives from a job that does manage such a good portion of the general fund. I mean, water, sewer, those are fee-based structures. This is a general fund management. It's a lot about prioritizing our values, right? Water has, it is a priority. It's kind of one thing, but Park and Rec is moving. It's a moving target. And we have so much going on in Decorah that position really is complex.
And I guess I'll just fall back to code, if nothing else. Director of Parks and Recreation shall be responsible to and under the direction of the city manager, which is all good and fine. But 22.100 specifically addresses appointment. So I guess if it's going to be a question or process, the recommendation of the city council and the Parks and Recreation Board would be the minimum that I would want to see preserved in the process if you're not amicable to adding anybody else.
No, so that's my question. Is it the mayor and the chair of park board then? Does the council need to vote to determine who that needs to be? Does the park board need to vote to determine who that needs to be? Is it supposed to be all of you?
I personally want the mayor and the chair of the park board or their designee. And that's my preference. I appreciate the desire for more minds in the room or whatever, but where those minds work best is when we hired you, Travis. And I think, we hired someone that we think will, reflect the will of the council, invested in us, by the people who elected us. I trust you to be in that room more than, there's a reason you have your job. And so I personally would like to, if you feel more comfortable having a representative from each board, fine. But I agree with you. I've been in part of interview processes that were larger, and at some point it becomes unwieldy. Even if the sort of scenario of being undermined immediately because you go in a different direction than the board recommends, even if that doesn't come to pass, it's awfully logistically challenging. It's imposing for candidates, and it's sometimes hard to have the kinds of conversations you can have with smaller groups of people where you can actually find out where someone's values are or how they handle a crisis or, how they'd manage under pressure. It's hard to have those conversations when you're sitting in a committee of 15.
I guess that's why I brought up the point of, is this worth discussing at this point in time of how we deal with our park rec board? If we have an elected position or appointed by the mayor, and that would take them out of that spot.
I think you have to work with what we have currently and then know that we have to be researching the part about taking it from elected to appointed as you go along. Because you can't put something on with the amount of work that you'd have to do to change that. That is not something we can do in this time period. So what you got so far is you've got the manager, the mayor, chair, somebody who represents either the chair of the Park and Rec or what you said, whoever they appoint, and a council person.
Personally think just 3 people is good, but
well, this is 4.
Yeah, I was saying the mayor or their designee, the chair or their designee,
okay,
and the city manager.
Okay.
But I think my mic was off there. But I'm just one voice on the council. I also know, though, that if I want to influence this decision, one, Travis listens to us in meetings and in private all the time. He kind of knows where our values are. But I know I can send an email and it'll be read and weighed carefully. So,
well, I get that. I mean, I do think that Travis knows our values. He knows what but that doesn't mean that then there's input on candidates, right? I mean,
but we do represent the community. Any of these people here, well, the manager does, but any of the other ones are representative of the citizens that we have at Decorah.
No, I agree. That's why I think we should be representative of at least as an advisory capacity. I mean, ultimately, yeah, it's your choice who you hire and who you don't. But I think that it is good to have perspective from at least the council and the park board. And I actually think from the other superintendents as well. But
how many people were involved in the interview process for the city engineer?
3.
Myself, city clerk, and
Depending.
See, we did a lot of interviews. Who was the third one on the?
Well, depended upon.
Oh, yeah. Mike with the wastewater treatment plant. My apologies.
Who did it for the Public Works Director?
Public Works Director was myself, Carrie, and John Yelly, because those are the positions that are going to work most closely with that position.
And that, I mean, this is always comes off wrong sounding, but it's a luxury that we can have the park rec programming and system that we have. There's a lot of communities that can't afford it and don't want to take it on because they're more concerned with police protection, with water, sewer, their necessities. So, in streets. So, yes, I understand it's a big part of the budget, but I am comfortable with the two sitting over here and whoever you appoint out of the department heads to be your third, or the mayor. I mean, that would be more than adequate in my book.
I am as well.
Recommendation.
I am as well.
Then we're not even complying with code. I mean,
well, that's just it. I mean, the way this is reading now, the whole council and the whole park rec board need to do interviews and then come to a consensus to bring to the city manager.
It's not so different than P&Z and historic preservation chiming in on a building.
Yeah.
Except for I work for you. And so if yeah,
but if you don't, if you hire someone that, then we have tremendous oversight on their budget. We have tremendous oversight on what it is that they do. It does seem like there should be a voice from council and park rec. I mean, we are elected officials for one. And I do think that this park rec position, or the park rec director, is a little bit different than our other positions, much like the chief.
Well, same could be said for city engineer as well. I mean,
but
you're overseeing a large part of the budget.
I think it's code. I don't think this is optional. It's written in code. Unless we're going to amend code, you need to hire based on code.
Okay, where's the?
I mean, really, you're just asking to add 2 more people, right? The mayor and the park director.
Mayor and chair, that's exactly. I'm asking for clarification on what does that mean?
I would be fine with the mayor and.
I'll be fully transparent. The idea of council as a whole and park board as a whole participating in this and then saying the city manager appoints is ridiculous. Just say the council appoints it then, because obviously I'm not going to go against the majority of council's recommendation on a vote. So I don't want to say I like, but I appreciate the guidance that some of the guidance I've heard today. If council is receptive to the mayor or chair or their appointee designee, if they want to pick somebody else different, I think that complies with code. It's getting input from those 2 boards and their representatives. But this position is going to take a lot of crossover work with the future public works director and the city clerk finance officer. So from a daily operational standpoint, I really want to have those 2 people participate in this interview process. And so adding the chair and the mayor gets me to 5.
Christopher and Brent, I feel like some of us have kind of said where we stand, and it seems like it's a close vote. So I'd like to hear where y'all are at.
I am leaning more towards, mayor and chair of the park and rec or their appointee.
I think where it's at and how it's written, we should have the mayor and also the chair be a part of it because it's here. A personal preference is, and I'm probably agree with Steve on this. So we hired the city manager to perform a function. He is, obviously I know the park and rec board has the majority of, or the second largest budget in the department. However, the city manager still is the one responsible for the budget, so, I kind of play that into it. So where I'm back to what I think we should be doing is, because it's on the paper, is having a representative from each, because I think we have to.
So what I'm hearing and what I believe is acceptable would be 5. That'd be myself, city clerk, finance officer, public works director, as well as chair, mayor and chair or their designee. All right.
I would also like to continue exploring the option to look at making the park board appointed versus elected. And so that by the time we work towards that, we just elected one. Was it just one this last time in the park? I think it was just
3.
Oh yeah, it was 3.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, there's enough appetite to be checking to see what that would be and putting down exactly so we know what we have to do too. Okay.
Has that position been advertised or not advertised?
It's been advertised.
Yeah. Okay.
First review of applications are the 30th.
Okay. And did we go as far as cities?
We've got Minnesota Park Rec Association, Iowa Park Rec Association, Iowa League of Cities, locally, of course. I already have 4 applications already on my desk.
Did we hit Wisconsin Park Rec too?
Did not. That process was very cumbersome, including registering for my own Park Rec account with Minnesota or Wisconsin Park Rec Association. Wasn't able to get it on there at this point.
Okay. Thank you. Openings of boards and commissions. We still have an opening on Board of Adjustment. I've approached different people unsuccessfully, obviously. So I'm putting it out for the public again to consider applying for that Board of Adjustment. If you have any questions, all the information is right on our website. Both, if you go into Board of Adjustment, you'll see what their mission is, who the members currently are, and what the responsibilities are, and the application form is right on there as well. Okay, city manager, department heads, and council report.
So I'll excuse me, real quickly, one other ordinance that we'll have to be taking a look at here shortly as a result of Senate File 455 that was passed and signed in by the governor today, I believe. That's the topsoil management or topsoil requirement and stormwater management state bill. Mayor signed it today, so we're gonna have to change our code, our stormwater runoff, where we can only require up to the 5-year rainfall event of pre versus post construction, where pre is the pre-existing condition. Can't say pre-existing is grass because that's what it started as. Like if we have a development out here in the parking lot, the pre-calculation is asphalt. So that's the first change. The second change is anything beyond that requirement, and this is where there's going to have to be a lot of council discussion, both as part of this ordinance that we'll draft, as well as once it's implemented. For anything beyond the city requires, anything beyond that, the city can impose additional stormwater runoff regulations. However, the city must pay for the design or the planning, the design, and the construction of anything required above the pre-existing condition. So if we said you're going to count this as grass back here for your pre versus post stormwater runoff and calculate a 5-year runoff, and you're going to address your stormwater to that runoff coefficient, we're going to have to pay for that.
But we can require modeling of what that 5-year was.
We can require that they show they are meeting that 5-year, yes. But again, it has to be the pre-existing. So if it's asphalt out here, they don't have to model anything.
It's the 5-year model then? What's the?
Because their pre-runoff calculation is asphalt and the post-runoff calculation is asphalt. So they can say, we're not making it any worse than it was before we started. So we don't have to control a 5-year.
What about site expansion?
We'll leave that up to John as we dive further into the bill.
Sounds like you got a little
okay.
But anyway, council, we're going to have some future conversations on our stormwater management ordinance because of Senate File 455. There's some other legislation out there. I won't go into a lot of detail. Some around MFPRSI that was just adopted does run the risk of making our police and fire departments more expensive to maintain with that MFPRSI system. But moving away from legislation, getting to some good news. So now tonight, I'm able to formally announce that Mike O'Hara has accepted the position as Public Works Director for the city of Decorah. Been a long time employee with the city of Decorah. Been out at the wastewater treatment plant for many, many years, but prior to that has also served as Public Works Director in other communities. So looking forward to that transition. And with that, I don't have anything else.
Carrie? Anything on the table? Andy?
A lot of changes. I became director after that young guy. Time to get out of here. Great.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Okay.
Okay. Parker.
I'm gonna have to say that I'm disappointed in Andy leaving, but I understand he has other things he wants to do. He has been a phenomenal park and rec director. And so, for me, I appreciate all your service. I could not be any more happier than Mike becoming filling that shoes in that position. I'm extremely happy that you took that job and look forward to you in that position. Other than that, I got nothing.
Christopher.
I will echo on Brent's sentiments, especially getting to know both Andy and Mike a little bit better in my process to getting on council. I just, wish you the best, Andy, on retirement, and I am excited to see what Mike can do in this position. So that is all.
Chris?
Yeah, quite a transition. We got Andy leaving and John and Mike coming on, so it's good on two fronts and bad on the other front. So good luck, Andy, going down the road, and welcome aboard, guys. Just a couple other things. Chamber Gala is coming up Friday, April 26th, next Friday. It's at Impact Coffee. You can get your tickets at the Chamber. Theme this year is Rock Around the Clock. Friday night.
A fun time.
Yeah, it is. Friday night, I was able to attend the Air Force Band and the Singing Sergeants up at Luther. It was a tremendous program, just like most of the programs they have up there at Luther. So if you weren't able to attend that one, they got a lot more of those coming up there. So take advantage of that up at Luther. And I was able to attend the groundbreaking at Ossihaugen last Monday, which was really exciting to see. They're breaking ground out there and building a new facility and what's going on out there, and exciting to see. Thanks.
Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got just a few things. First of all, I want to thank Chief Tricia and also Chief Jeff over at Fire Department for joining me and Christopher at a meeting with the Luther College Student Senate. We had a really nice conversation. There's a whole community of members of our community. There's a whole group of them and the students who are eager to deepen the connections between campus and the rest of the city. I'm really interested in some of the thoughts they had about how we could do that work, but really grateful for both chiefs to make time in their day for that. One of the things that I told them and this is the sermonizing bit that I warned you about earlier. I'm just gonna one more. I know I did one more minute. I think one of the things I told him is that our city is very good at making plans and then putting them on the shelf. And I pulled out this plan, which is our 2018 community visioning document, which has some really neat drawings of what College Drive and Hively and the connection between campus and town could be. And there's price tags attached to them. And you know, this has been on a shelf, unfortunately, and maybe it's going to fade away into history without much having been done from it. But let me just say that, you know, both Andy and Mike, I'm sad to lose Andy, because I think in so many ways you positioned the city to be in a place to pursue some of these plans with your long and steady fiscal stewardship of the Parks and Rec budget. I think there's a lot that the community doesn't appreciate about the way that you set us up for long-term success with our parks and rec programs, establishing endowments, developing forward-thinking capital plans for our depreciating assets like the Trout Run Trail. And hopefully that will be a part of the culture that is passed along to the next director. I could say similar things about Mike's stewardship of the wastewater treatment plant and its finances, and how that positions the city to turn more of our plans into reality. So I'm really grateful to see that you're taking a bigger role in the city government, Mike, and excited for what's to come.
Thank you. Randy?
Nothing this evening.
Ross?
Just wanted to point out that in that 2018 playbook, the dry run park, the greening of College Drive, the restriping of College Drive and traffic control, the three Hively Drive expansion that we voted on for 2025 with pedestrian walkways, and the change of that is also directly part of the 2018 plan. So it's not a shelf.
You can't look at this picture and give me a foot of grass. I mean, come on. There's a couple feet of grass in College Drive is not what's in this document.
But we're moving there.
But it was move in that direction. Right? I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, I mean, I will just echo all of the sentiments of my council. Welcome, John. We are so blessed by our department heads and all of the ways in which they help us. So thank you very much. I'll save the rest for another meeting.
Okay, I have a request for council people for the second reading of some of the ordinances that we have passed. I noticed that there were some that voted no. And during the second reading, if you still consider that, if you could state at that time why. I know we've had discussions and probably if you stated it someplace, but when we're actually voting on it and we're looking at the first and second reading, and if some were voted no, I'd like to know just a brief description as to why you're voting no. So other than that, it's National Dispatch Appreciation, EMC Week. So be grateful for the dispatch workers that are down there. Anything else?
I might just add that next week, council work session will be Dr. Robert Clay with Luther doing a presentation, like a, what do you call it? Where you actually are involved with it. It's not just you sit there and listen to a presentation, but you work. Interactive. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a long night.
We
gotta get this to the over 8:30. No, I'm just kidding. But Dr. Robert Clay, next week, Monday, for our work session, a conversation about belonging and talking about Luther students and their involvement with the city of Decorah as a community.
Is that the only thing on our work session?
Yes.
So when are we going to talk about wayfinding signs?
So 5:45 is the work session for the time, and wayfinding signs we'll have on the next council meeting, assuming that if council members are going to waive a third reading of the ordinance, because we've got a full month yet if we don't waive second and third readings.
No. I meant the actual discussion of what our wayfinding sign policy is going to be.
Right. That's what I'm saying. The next council meeting. So there's still second and third readings of that ordinance yet to have a resolution about wayfinding signs.
Oh, so we can't do a resolution until we pass that.
Correct.
Got it.
So assuming even at the next council meeting, council members waive the third reading, then we'll just have adoption of the ordinance. We got to publish before we can. And maybe we should adopt before or publish before adoption, but
I think once you
Once
pass
you
the
pass the
ordinance, we
ordinance.
start working on the program, the resolution, and then maybe don't pass the actual resolution till the 30 days pass.
Right.
Or I suppose you could, we've done a resolution before effective upon publication. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I like effective upon it. Okay.
Okay, anything else? Move to adjourn? All right.